I am a proud stay-at-home mom to a 2-year-old heart and cleft warrior and a 3-week-old baby boy. My name is Korteney, and I am a miraculous mama.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we are a podcast that believes in empowering women through storytelling and education. And we've just been so blessed to have amazing educators on the past few months, but we haven't had birth stories for a while. So this week we're going to have two birth stories from mamas, a part of our Miraculous Mamas group. And one of them, so it is a Congenital Heart Awareness Month. We did an awesome episode last year. And this year we just wanted to talk about it again because a congenital heart defect, it's a problem with the structure of the heart and it's present at birth. It is the most common type of birth defect, and it can involve the walls of the heart, the valves, the arteries, the veins, so many different things, but it isn't really talked about until you're in the situation. And Korteney's going to share with us her story because it is the most common type of birth defect, but yet we're not told necessarily the signs and the symptoms of what to look for when you're taking your new baby home. And so she talks about some of that with us and how she found that her daughter had one. And so it's just important to spread awareness. It's something she's really passionate about. And I wanted her to be able to share the story of her daughter with us. And then I'm going to have Jordan on, who talks about her birth story. She talks about dealing with hyperemesis, which I know a lot of women do, and then having a car birth. So it's pretty crazy. But we just wanted to, women who are listening to feel less alone, whether you have a child that was born with a heart defect or you dealt with hyperemesis during your pregnancy. We talk about how it can be very isolating. So we're super excited to just dive in and have these birth stories this week and to be able to connect with the community and have you guys connect deeper by getting to know each other and getting to know some of the moms in the community. So without further ado, here's Korteney. All right, everybody, I have a miraculous mama here, Korteney Stahler, and she is going to share with us the story of her daughter who was born with a congenital heart defect. And we just wanted to spread some awareness this month, and she volunteered to come on and share their story. So thank you so much for coming on, Korteney.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm just going to let you kind of take over and share your story.
Okay, I guess I'll just start from the beginning. It all ties in together, so it'll make sense. My daughter was born with cleft lip and cleft palate, and she was born with IUGR, which is where just the baby doesn't grow very well inside of you. So she was really small, and the cleft lip and cleft palate was what they thought had made her small inside of me. Well, then she was born. Everything was fine, but with cleft lip and cleft palate, they're not able to eat as much as a normal baby, or I should say like a normal baby. So they have special feeders that the baby chews on the bottle instead of sucking. And so they burn more calories that way. So Kinley wasn't growing normally. She was really tiny, really petite. Around 3 months old, I had started noticing that her feet were turning really blue, and then they would get really red, like as if the blood would get to her feet really fast. I took her to the doctor, and they said it was completely fine. It was just because she was really tiny, didn't have a lot of fat on her body. They just thought it was her being cold because it normally only happened when she was naked. So we brushed it off. Well, one day on a Monday, something told me to take her to the doctor. And I don't remember what it was, but I took her to the doctor. They didn't find anything wrong with her. She was completely fine. And then Wednesday rolls around, and something inside of me told me to take her to the doctor. I didn't know what it was. And during this time, she had really bad reflux. So with the chewing on the bottle, she would puke all the time. And I'm not talking about like little baby spit ups. I mean, excessive vomiting. And so they started her on medication. Well, on this particular Wednesday, I took her in, and I don't remember what for. I just remember that something told me to take her in. So I took her in, and the doctor at the time has, this one in particular has only seen her like 3 or 4 times during the first 3 months of her life. And she found a heart murmur.
Mm.
The heart murmur was not there on Monday. She had found it on Wednesday. And she had told me, she said, because she's Kinley with her cleft lip and cleft palate, they usually go hand in hand, like a heart defect with a cleft lip and cleft palate. They don't know why. They just usually always find them in cleft kiddos. So she was like, I'm going to send you to cardiology. Don't think anything of this appointment. I'm not going to rush it. I don't think anything's wrong. Most kids that are born with heart murmurs, it's nothing. So they called me and scheduled the consultation, and it was like a month away. I didn't think anything of it. I thought she was fine. We go to the heart doctor, get in there, and I had noticed during her echocardiogram that they were focusing a lot on her aorta. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but I noticed they were focusing on this one spot, and then when they said it, I knew what it was. They also were taking her blood pressure a lot, and they kept moving it from her arm to her legs. And they just kept telling me that's normal. We just got to check. And obviously they don't tell you why they're checking. But afterwards they told me that with her congenital heart condition, which is coarctation of the aortic valve, that usually 99% of the time, the blood pressure in the arms is higher than the blood pressure in the legs, meaning she's getting more blood flow from her belly button up than she was getting from her belly button down, which in turn explains why her feet were always turning blue, and then they would miraculously turn red, and they would be really hot when she got the blood flow back in her feet and whatnot. But the doctor told us that she had coarctation of the aorta, and that he was really surprised it was not found at birth. He said that she was definitely born with it, but during her first growth spurt, it might have stretched it out really thin to the point where it was finally found and the heart murmur started. He wanted to do surgery immediately, but he had to get a CT scan because he needed to decide if it was better to crack her chest or go through her back. Now, I didn't know heart kiddos they get open heart surgery through their back, but I guess they can. He said that technically it is more painful than cracking their chest because their chest is so rubbery at that age that it is easier for them, I guess, to recover from. But he said going through the back is more painful because they have to go through more tissue, I guess. I'm not sure. That's just what they told me. He asked me what I wanted, and I told him, I said, you're the doctor. You know what you're doing. I want you to choose. So, obviously from a very young age, I learned to advocate for Kinley just because of all her reflux problems, getting her dosage always upped because her medication was never working right when she would gain weight. And he told us that he was surprised that Kinley had virtually showed no symptoms of it, and that he didn't know why all of a sudden it was found. He said a lot of the times these kiddos that have coart are never found until they're in adulthood because they have high blood pressure problems and so on and so forth. So he wanted to get a CT scan, and I guess whoever schedules the CT scans wasn't in work on Monday or Tuesday. So I call on Wednesday, they're still not in work. So I finally pushed to speak to the manager because I'm having, cardiology call me and asking if we scheduled it and whatnot. And she had to have a special kind. She had to have sedated CT because they had to find out if they needed to go through her back or her chest. Well, then we finally get the CT scan on Friday, and he told us off of a whim, he said, don't leave the hospital until I tell you. He's like, I just need to feel good about sending you guys home. And I never thought about anything about it. And he comes and he finds us after the CT scan, and he says, you're not going home. Because we were going to go home, and her surgery was going to be on Tuesday. And so we would have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday together, and then we would go in Tuesday morning for her surgery. And he said, you're not allowed to go home. It's way tighter than we thought, or it stretched really thin within the last week. And we said, okay. He said that he felt having her on the monitors 24/7 was better than sending her home, and we agreed. And then we went in. She ended up being pushed to Monday, and they did the surgery. And she obviously was in there, I want to say, for about 8 days afterwards. A lot of blood pressure medication. She had really high blood pressure after the surgery and whatnot. But basically, I just wanted to spread awareness because my daughter's almost wasn't found. It was almost too late because it was virtually unseen on the CT scan, part of her aorta. And so I just wanted to spread the signs, the symptoms. With my daughter, I did a ton of research afterwards. And had I known the signs of what to look for, I hope it could help find someone. Or help someone find their kiddos. For every 26 babies that are born with a congenital heart defect, only 11 are found.
Wow.
And I think it should be way more than that. I think 26 out of 26 should be found. I guess the signs that I had researched is if your baby is pale or blue, especially the hands and the feet, or just in general from head to toe. With my daughter's particular congenital heart defect, they talk about temperature in the hands and the feet, and I thought it was just her weight. Had I known it was something else, I would have advocated way more and way sooner. They talk about respirations, if they're too much or too low, if you think your baby's breathing too high, too fast, or too slow, just go get them checked out. Same with their heart rate. Like if you go in and they get a pulse ox test and they notice that their heart rate is really fast or really slow, and same with their respirations, if they're too low or too high. Advocate, even if you don't think it's anything, ask to be seen by cardiology if you have a feeling. With my daughter, the heart murmur is what set us over to send her there. Had we not found that, I don't know what we would have done. But if maybe, they say it's normal. They say kids that are born with normal hearts, they always get heart murmurs. I feel that me personally with my son, because I just had a baby boy, even if they find a heart murmur, I'm sending him to cardiology just to get checked. Because I don't think they should be thrown away as if they're normal. It could be the earliest sign. And I just wanted to, especially since it's almost Heart Week, I would love to be able to find more heart defects than 11 out of 26.
Right. Yeah. All right. I'm going to take a second to talk to you about the perfect bra, because it is out there, folks, and you can find one that is designed for your perfect fit. And that is with Third Love. They have bras in over 80 sizes, and you can find your fit in 60 seconds. Over 15 million women have taken their online Fit Finder quiz to find their perfect fit. You answer a few simple questions to find your size based on your breast size, shape, and fit issues. And if you need some extra assistance, Third Love's team of experts will help you. They're available to answer any of the questions that you have about their bras. And I'm actually wearing my bra that I got from there. I recently just ordered a couple of their lounge bras that I'm in love with. I have their wide strap support bra, which is basically the only quote unquote real bra I wear anymore because I feel like it actually helps me almost with my posture, because the other straps pull down, but the wide straps are just so much more comfortable that I can keep my shoulders back. It just feels like so much more support. But I love their lounge bras. I wear them all the time. I actually ordered a bunch of underwear off of there because I really needed new underwear. They have such a cute underwear selection as well. And I'm super excited to be able to try out their nursing bras once I need those, which is a while from now. But they have nursing bras on there too, guys. So definitely check those out. They have a perfect fit promise. So every customer has 60 days to wear it, wash it, and put it to the test. And if you don't love it, you can return it, and Third Love will wash it and donate it to women in need. And they I think that that's so cool that they donate all of their gently used and returned bras to women who need them. And they support the charities in their local San Francisco Bay Area. So far, they've donated over $15 million worth in bras, which is awesome. And comfort and quality, let's face it. When it comes to a bra, you need comfort and quality. It's definitely hands down the most comfortable bra that you'll own. The straps won't slip. They're tagless, which I know for me was super important. How many times have you been out and then you have that itch in the middle of your back that you're trying to scratch and it's the tag on your bra? Oh, you don't have to worry about that with these bras. And they're lightweight, super thin memory foam cups. They just have such awesome products on their site. And Third Love knows that there's a perfect bra for everyone. So right now they're offering the listeners 15% off your first order. Go to thirdlove.com/mamas now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/mamas for 15% off today. I feel like that, there's so much new information when you're a new parent, and not all of that type of stuff is handed to you. You know, they're not like, right. And it's not like, hey, if these are signs if your baby has a congenital heart defect, because it is something that, you hear about it quite a bit. So it's not like it's a crazy rare condition that, that you don't need to be aware of as a new parent. And so I just feel like those aren't things that you learn about until your kid has one.
Exactly. And our surgeon gave us like a whole list of symptoms. And one of them was reflux. My daughter had really, really bad reflux, and medication. You could tell when she gained half a pound because her Zantac wouldn't work anymore. And everything I've Googled and, looked up does not say reflux is a symptom. I feel like they should be looking more into it. If a kiddo has a heart murmur, just send them. What does it hurt?
Right. I agree. And I feel like that's something that I guess in healthcare that they just kind of need to work on too, is being like, all right, well, let's check it out just in case,
Agreed.
Just because there are endless possibilities. And if anything, it's peace of mind for you and for the family and things like that. But I mean, it's crazy that you even just had that motherly instinct of, I just need to take her in.
Yeah,
like you just
that
knew.
week, I don't even know what hit me. It was just something that was like, take her in, just get her checked out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then going back 2 days later and being like, nope, we're coming back, like something,
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So definitely follow your motherly instinct. And I think that it's important to find providers that do help you feel heard and listen to your concerns and help give you that peace of mind. And it's crazy what your motherly instinct might tell you, and your kid. I mean, you're with your kid 24/7, so if something's off or if just something seems different.
Exactly.
And so I think it's something to follow up on. How old is your daughter now?
She's 2.
And she's doing good?
Yes, we are graduating. She goes to see cardiology on the 25th, and then we are graduating to yearly appointments. I'm so excited.
Oh, that is really exciting. Cool. So the 25th of this month?
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, that's so exciting. That'll be really nice. How often do you have to go now?
We just graduated from every 3 months to 6 months, and then they saw her, I want to say 1 or 2 times at 6 months. So this will be the 3rd time, and then we'll be at a year.
Yeah. Oh, good. That's so exciting. Thank you so much for coming on and for talking with us about this, because I know even for myself, I wouldn't know that, because
no, and I didn't either.
There's not like here's a new mom pamphlet and here's all the bad things that could potentially happen to look out for, because then people would also be constantly freaking out, but there does need to be just that type of awareness. So it's good that you're sharing your story, because somebody listening could be like, oh, well, maybe my kid was displaying those symptoms, or even just the peace of mind of becoming a new mom, knowing like, okay, at least I have some knowledge that if these things are happening, I know what it could potentially be, and it's something that's very curable. And so, just to go get checked,
Yes. And even just, the providers, like if your provider isn't giving you what you need, advocate for your child. You are their voice. They don't have a voice. Change a doctor. If you need a second opinion, get a second opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. And we look forward to watching those milestones.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for spreading heart awareness for Heart Month.
Yes, you are welcome. I love her passion for wanting to spread this awareness and her willingness to come on and share her experience and her story with us. Don't forget to join our Facebook group and be a part of it. I know that women find so much comfort in there. That's where I met all these wonderful women from. But just join our Miraculous Mamas Facebook group. It's very inclusive. The women just really love on each other in there. And it's an awesome place to get plugged in and feel connected in motherhood. All right, guys, if you're looking for a fun way to pass the time while engaging your brain and enjoying breathtaking visuals and a gripping story, your answer is Best Fiends. Best Fiends is a casual game anyone can play, but it's made for adults, and you can spend as much or as little time as you'd like in the game. I am currently at level 12, and I always tend to catch myself playing in the bathroom. I can't lie to you guys. And then I end up being gone for like 40 minutes, and Vito's like, "Did you die in there?" I'm like, "No, I got caught up in my game Best Fiends." But it engages your brain and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool visuals on there. The design of the game is really awesome. And it's 5-star rated. So it's fun to come back to. I guess that's where I find myself going when I'm bored. I'm like, I'll just hop on Best Fiends and play for a little bit. You can also connect with friends on there and race each other to compete different levels, which is really cool. I love that each level has a goal. That's probably my favorite part because I can be goal oriented sometimes, but when I'm like playing something, I like to have like, okay, I need to get this many things, and I just like to have a goal to accomplish. So collecting certain characters and different things is definitely a goal for mine on there. And it's a lot of fun, and it helps pass the time and keep your body or your mind engaged. And there's always updates. They update the game monthly with new levels and events, so it never gets old. And Best Fiends treats the game like a service for their players. They really care about the people who are playing. And again, it's a great way to engage your brain with fun puzzles and collect tons of cute characters. And trust me, with over 100 million downloads, this 5-star rated mobile puzzle game is a must play. I know that you can collect characters, but one of my favorite things is collecting. You get these keys and then you get to unlock these cages. And for some reason, that's really exciting for me. And I always try to get diamonds, but somehow I always end up collecting these meteorites instead. But whenever I get the diamonds, I get really excited. And the best part is that you can download Best Fiends for free on the Apple App Store or on Google Play. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends. Download and play today. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Jordan so that she can share her story. I know that I've heard from so many people the struggles of being so sick during your pregnancies, and I had never really thought about how it could also be affecting your relationships and the other aspects of your life. But it does. When you are dealing with hyperemesis during pregnancy, it affects all areas of your life. And you women who have gone through it and dealt with it, just props to you. That is, it just sounds so hard. But Jordan wanted to share her story, and she was willing to share that with us so that we can just kind of see what it's like, and so that the women who have dealt with it feel less alone. So I'm going to grab her so she can share. All right, everyone, I have Jordan Farrand here, and she has 3 kids, and she has quite a story just dealing with pregnancies and just different complications. And then she has a crazy birth story that she's going to share with us. And we haven't had birth stories on here in a while, so I'm super excited to share. So thanks for being here, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be able to share my birth story specifically, but also just to bring some more awareness to one of the complications that I had with my second two pregnancies, because it's something that's being talked about a lot more within the past couple of years, with some more famous people coming out saying that they had it with their pregnancies. But before that, it's something that I had never heard of, and it seems like it's maybe a little bit more common than you would think. But I guess I'll just start at the beginning. When I was 20 years old, I got pregnant with our first daughter, and that pregnancy wasn't great. I never really have liked being pregnant, but looking back now, it was a lot better than the other two. So I'd say that's by far my easiest pregnancy. And then with her, I was induced at 40 weeks and had her very easily. I was induced in the morning and then had her at like almost 10 o'clock at night. So it was a long labor, but it was smooth. I had an epidural, so I wasn't in any pain at all. And it was great. And then we had tried to have another baby for about 8 or 9 months and finally got pregnant. We had our second baby when my first daughter was 2.5, almost 2.5. So we had a little bit of time in between pregnancies for my body to heal and everything. So I thought the second pregnancy would be even easier. Mm-hmm. My mom had wonderful pregnancies. And so I was so jealous that I wasn't like a happy pregnant person. But I got really bad morning sickness right away. And then it just kind of never went away, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I found out that I have a condition called hyperemesis, and I would throw up like 30 plus times a day. And it was awful. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't take prenatal vitamins. I'm sure I probably took maybe 5 in the last 2 pregnancies combined, because I just couldn't keep anything down. So I was on like 5 or 6 different medications for nausea, and those would help a little bit. Like on my good days, I would throw up like 5 to 10 times. And I was losing weight and obviously not healthy because I wasn't able to eat or drink. I was extremely dehydrated. So I was getting IVs with IV fluid multiple times a week and doing like suppositories for nausea medicine, because most of the time I couldn't keep the nausea medicine down either. So the suppositories were a way to get that absorbed through my body. But most of the time those medications kind of knock you out cold. So yeah. With a toddler, it's kind of hard to be able to take medications like that, because especially if you take like a mixture of different medications together, then you like are in a coma for like 8 hours and wake up then getting sick again and have to kind of do it again. So it was really hard on my body physically and mentally. I suffered with some depression and anxiety when I was in college, and then postpartum anxiety pretty badly when I had my first daughter. So I already had the kind of mental health in my past. So once I was not feeling well every single day, it was really hard to keep positive mentally. And I started to get like depressed again, and obviously sleeping a lot because of the medication, but then also sleeping a lot because I was not feeling well mentally, and just the toll that took on my family and my marriage especially. And then my daughter would come to the bathroom with me and like rub my back while I was throwing up. And she started to do this thing where she would always say that she had to throw up, and she would like run to the bathroom and act like she was throwing up. So I know it took a pretty big toll on her as well. And then finally, towards the end of my pregnancy, I was still losing quite a bit of weight, and the baby had started to show signs of not growing at a healthy rate. So they decided to induce me at 37 weeks after a lot of ultrasounds to make sure that she was breathing well and that she would be okay being delivered early. And so we induced with her as well. And I think I started Pitocin at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I had her at 3:55, so almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that was a longer labor too. And I got an epidural with her as well. So no pain with that one either.
All right, I'm going to take a quick break to talk to you about one of our favorite brands. Have you guys heard about the company that's making stylish shoes for women and girls out of recycled plastic water bottles? And they're crazy comfortable and fully machine washable. That's right, it is Rothy's. They have quickly grown to a most loved, gotta have them brand, and it's no surprise that they have over 1,000 nearly perfect reviews. So I ordered a pair off of there, I don't know, like a month or so ago. And just to give you guys an idea, I have flat feet and they're so flat that my arches actually roll in and my ankles roll out. And finding cute flats is basically impossible for me. Finding comfortable ones, because I always get blisters when you're wearing them in. And I thought that that was normal. I'm like, okay, anytime I buy a pair of flats, you get blisters wearing them in because that's just how you have to do it. You guys, so I ordered these Rothy's, no blisters. They were so comfortable. I wore them around all day and I was expecting to kind of have to wear them in, but I didn't. They were so comfortable. They fit my imperfectly flat, wide feet, and I absolutely love them. I know that I actually ended up throwing out my other flats because I'm like, I don't have to be in pain in flats anymore. I can use the Rothy's. And one of our favorite things about them is that it'll just blow your mind that they're made from repurposed plastic water bottles. They have diverted over 35 million water bottles from landfills already to make these fully machine washable shoes, which is so cool. And Rothy's, they're just a perfect everyday shoe for life on the go. They're stylish and comfortable, and they'll go with everything from yoga pants to dresses and skirts. They come in an ever-changing array of colors, prints, patterns, and they're available in a range of styles like sneakers, loafers, points, and more. And they always come out with new stuff. They launch new colors and patterns every few weeks, and they constantly sell out. And if you guys want to find comfortable flats like I did, because it's taken me 33 years to find them, go to rothys.com. That's ROTHYS.com/miraculous to get your new favorite flats. Their comfort, style, and sustainability. These are the shoes that you have been waiting for. Head to rothys.com/miraculous today.
Then somehow I got pregnant at 8 weeks postpartum.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
So I was like finally starting to feel better, and right in the swing of postpartum anxiety being the highest that it was, and then finding out that we were pregnant again. And we both wanted a lot of kids, but I didn't ever want to be pregnant again after that pregnancy. I didn't think my body could take it. And it wasn't something I wanted to put myself or my family through again. So we were shocked when we found out I was pregnant again. Mm-hmm. We do natural family planning. So obviously I knew I was ovulating. So we knew it was something that could happen. We just weren't expecting it to really happen that soon. So we found out I was pregnant again. I got sick right away again. And the third pregnancy was just as awful as the second one, where I was throwing up nonstop, losing weight, not able to eat. And then also I had a newborn to take care of on top of my toddler. So that pregnancy was very, very hard. I think that one I struggled the most with mentally, because I didn't feel like I was really there enough to like bond with my baby. And obviously almost 2 years of me being sick took a lot harder toll on my relationship with my husband as well. So towards the end of the pregnancy, at 35 weeks, I went into early labor. I was having contractions, very strong contractions every 2 minutes. So we went to the hospital, and they were kind of mean and awful to me. And this is where one of those moments where I really wish I would have had a doula, because my nurse just kind of was like, well, we're in the middle of someone else in labor right now, and just kind of like pushed me off and was rude to me. Like, you're not really in labor. You're only 35 weeks. So we're not going to worry about you, and blah, blah, blah. It was kind of awful. And she went and talked to my OB, and my OB apparently told her there's no way she's having her baby until 40 weeks. We're going to have to induce her. So she's not in labor. And I'm sitting there like in awful pain. It's like, I'm in labor. So they let me walk around the hospital for an hour because we live 30 minutes away from the hospital. So they let me walk around, and my contractions got a lot worse. So I went back into the room to get checked again, and I was progressing. So at that point, they still kind of acted like I wasn't in labor. But then they were like, well, we're going to give you steroid shots, and we're going to start you on antibiotics, because my group B test hadn't come back yet. So they just did that to make sure if I had it, I was on the antibiotics. And then they kept me overnight. And eventually, without like getting out of bed and everything, the labor stopped. But the contractions never really stopped. So I went home without anyone in the hospital ever like apologizing or saying like, you know, I'm sorry, you were in labor or you were having real contractions. We're sorry for how we treated you. None of that. It was awful. I went home and was like, you know, I don't think that's the person that I want to be in the delivery room with me when I have this baby. Mm-hmm. So I actually switched OBs at 36 weeks, which may not have been a very good idea. But it was an OB that worked at the clinic that I went to with my last baby. So I was at least familiar with the people there, and I felt comfortable around him. So I went to an appointment with him, and he basically explained that I was like stuck in labor and I could be this way for the rest of my pregnancy. I was having like full on labor contractions for like multiple hours a day, every day. And so he was just like, well, we are probably going to be like this on top of the nausea and vomiting and everything else. You're going to be having contractions probably until you have this baby. And that could be at 40 weeks. We don't really know. So I went home, and then I think I had the baby at 37 weeks. So it was a week later. We were at our house. I was having normal contractions and everything like that. So I just kind of was like, well, it's just another day. Mm-hmm. And it was really nice out. So we went and we were playing outside, and I sat on the trampoline for a little bit while my daughter was jumping around. So I'm sure that bouncing probably didn't help. And then we went for a walk, and we came back inside and had some friends come over. And I was like, man, these are really starting to hurt again. So I went and got in the bathtub, and that didn't stop them. So I told my husband, it was about dinner time at this point, that I was just going to go lay down and try to go to sleep. So I laid down, and that's kind of when contractions picked up. So then I was like, well, I'll give it an hour and we'll see. They were like 2 minutes apart, which was normal for me at that point. So I waited a little bit, and then I was in so much pain where I just couldn't stand it anymore. So we decided to load the kids up and drop them off at the designated babysitters, and then head to the hospital. And this new hospital is an hour away. Mm-hmm. So we had to stop to drop off babies and then head to the hospital. And by the time we had dropped off our second daughter, I was in so much pain. I was like sitting in the front seat just screaming. Oh and gosh. We were just driving down the highway, and my husband was not speeding or anything. He was just driving normal. And I was moaning in pain and screaming in pain, and didn't think anything of it. I was just telling him, like, I don't know how I'm going to last another hour and a half, because that's probably how long it's going to take me for them to be able to get the epidural in me. I was like, that's way too long to be feeling this much pain. And I remember joking about how long the epidural was going to take. And then all of a sudden I was sitting in the front seat and I got like this extreme feeling like I was going to poop my pants. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do this in front of my husband. So I was getting ready to climb into the back seat because I was like, if this is going to happen, I'm not going to be able to stop it and I'm not going to do it in front of him. So let me get in the back seat.
Yeah.
And at that point I felt a lot of liquid. So I kind of like looked to see what it was, and it was blood, and my hands were covered in blood. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And so I told my husband, I was like, I'm bleeding really bad. And we were probably still like 20 minutes from the hospital. And then I felt again, and I could feel her head.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh no. So I called my mom and I was like, I don't know what's happening. I think the baby's coming out. I can feel her head and I'm bleeding a lot. And so she told me to call 911. So we did. And the 911 operator was like, well, we can send an ambulance to you if you want to pull off on the side of the road. But I was afraid that I didn't know how much I was bleeding. So I was afraid that like I might bleed out or something might happen while we're just sitting on the side of the road and they're coming to us. And then we have to turn around and go back to the hospital. So we might as well just keep going. So I got in the back seat and took my pants off because I was covered in blood. And so I did that and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to push. And my husband just kept saying, don't push, don't push. And when you're in that, you can't really not push. So I was like, I have to push. We're going to have the baby in the car. I have to push. And we were still about 5 minutes away from the hospital at that point. And I was like, okay, I need to do this. And so I pushed once and my water broke because it hadn't broke by then. That's kind of why I was thinking that maybe I wasn't in actual labor. Maybe it was still the false labor. So my water broke and then I had to push again. I pushed one more time and she just came out in like one push completely. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just had my baby in the car. And then the cord was wrapped around her neck. So I was freaking out and all I had to do was just move the cord around her neck. Right. But she was breathing and had started crying and seemed fine. So I felt comfortable enough at that point to just hold her and relax until we got to the hospital. But then my husband had called 911 and was like, well, we already had the baby and we're almost to the hospital. So they were at least ready for us. So we pulled into the emergency room and they came out with a gurney and put me and the baby on the gurney with blankets and stuff. And then took us in through the ER to do the rest. So it was a very traumatic birth after 2 very traumatic pregnancies.
Yeah.
But
oh my gosh.
It was kind of one of those things where I was in shock. And so I don't think I really realized what was happening. I was just doing what my body knew to do. And it just kind of happened. And luckily the baby and I were both healthy and it was fine. But looking back now, it's like, oh my gosh, so many things could have went wrong because I had no experience with that. I mean, I had 2 babies, but my OB did it in the hospital, like a completely fully medicated birth both times. So it was very different and it's caused a lot of trauma after birth because just like every day I kind of replay it in my mind. And every time someone asks about it, it kind of brings all of those thoughts back and what could have happened. And it's so scary looking back at it, but
right. Well, it just happened 6 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. She was 6 weeks old yesterday. So she's still pretty young and it's still pretty new, but it also makes me so happy because I have such a low pain tolerance and I never thought I would be capable of having a natural childbirth. And so knowing that I was able to do that makes me feel really good and really proud. But at the same time, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone either. So,
right. Well, I mean, you kind of suffered through your pregnancy with the hyperemesis. And so, then being able to birth your daughter that way was probably empowering because there was so much that was out of your control the entire pregnancies, you know?
Right. Yeah. I think you hit that right on the head, because I didn't have control for almost 2 years of my life. I mean, I would say 2 years because you don't really have control in the newborn phase anyways. So for the last 2 years, I hadn't really been able to control anything. And then in that moment, I was able to control bringing a baby into the world. So
right. Your body did it. You did it.
Yeah. I had watched, when I was in high school, I had watched a video of a girl giving birth to her baby in the car. So I feel like that kind of was how I at least knew what to do. But a lot of it was probably just instinct, because that's what we're supposed to do. So
yeah, well, you brought up a few things though, because so for people who don't know hyperemesis, it's called hyperemesis gravidarum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the last word right, but it's
I couldn't tell you.
It's a severe type of nausea and vomiting during pregnancy. But it says that there's fewer than 200,000 U.S. cases a year. But I feel like I'm hearing more and more about this and women who are suffering from this. So I'm not sure if that's completely accurate.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because it was something that I had never heard of before, and I thought it was that uncommon. But ever since, I can't remember who. I think Amy Schumer was one of them.
Yeah,
there were a couple of famous people that came out like saying that they had it with their pregnancies and were very vocal about it. And now I think a lot of people are talking more about it and like, oh, maybe that's what I had. And even one of my family members was like, oh, I think I had that with one of my pregnancies.
I don't know. You don't think, like, if it's something you have, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I still feel like there's a lot of misconceptions on it, because just on random websites like Healthline, which I don't know how accurate they are, and it asks, what is hyperemesis? It's like, many women experience morning sickness. This condition is generally harmless. It can be quite uncomfortable, though. And it's like, dude, you don't know.
I mean, in the hyperemesis community, we kind of have like a support group on Facebook, kind of like the Miraculous Mamas page, but just for like sharing questions about medications. And the medications give a lot of awful side effects. So for instance, Zofran has awful constipation side effects. Like, you take one Zofran pill and you probably won't have a bowel movement for like 5 or 6 days.
Oh my gosh.
It's so bad. And then on top of pregnancy constipation as well. So it's kind of like sharing tips and secrets about, like, if you're taking this other medicine, it will help you have normal bowel movements. So just kind of like supporting each other through the mental health that you have with it. And then any questions. But there's a lot of women who have actually passed away because of it, because they've gotten so sick and their bodies have just shut down and they weren't able to make it through childbirth because of it. So I would definitely disagree that it's a harmless condition. But
yeah. Well, and then you had mentioned before, like, your mom had good pregnancies. And that's one thing that I'm hearing a lot more of too, is the way that our mothers birthed is not necessarily reflective of how we will, because like, I don't know, I've just heard a lot of it. It's like, oh, well, my mom's labors were really quick, so I think mine will be. And it's like, everybody is so different. And there's some things that like maybe can be passed on, but for the most part, those experiences really aren't, because our bodies just really are completely different when it comes to birth. Every baby's different. And so it's good to be kind of prepared for, well, I know my mom's labors went quick, but mine might be long, you know, and whatever it is. But, and also you had mentioned that at 36 weeks, you're like, I don't know if it was a good idea, but I switched providers. And I think that it's an amazing idea that you did, because so many people feel that they can't, and they end up being stuck with somebody who they aren't comfortable with and who doesn't have good bedside manner, or whoever that they don't click with, and that can change your birthing experience completely.
Oh yeah.
So it's good that you did, because you're like, as when you talked about switching, you're like, it was somebody that I was comfortable with, and that is so important.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, the OB that I had, she's wonderful, and she actually was very supportive and very helpful dealing with the hyperemesis in the beginning. She she helped me a lot more than my previous OB did with that. And also I have really bad migraines, where I like half of my body goes numb and I lose my eyesight. And I usually lose the ability to like form sentences along with them. And she sent me to a neurologist while I was pregnant and did all of these other things that were so amazing. But she just didn't have like the calming bedside manner that I would have wanted. And so I think in that moment I was like, I don't want this in my delivery room. And so switching it was hard. And if I hadn't have switched, I probably would have delivered at the hospital, but it would have been like quick, and maybe she would have been there. Maybe it would have been someone else, but I still don't think that I would have been as comfortable as I was even delivering in the car, because at least I had my husband who was supportive, and I was there not really thinking about anyone else at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I would have delivered in the hospital, I probably would have been upset with her still from that experience. And then who knows if I would have gotten a good bedside manner or not.
Right.
So,
right. Just kind of going in feeling like, well, they didn't believe me last time I was here.
Right.
Like, who knows what they're going to do this time.
And honestly, that's the reason why I stayed at home so long, because I probably should have went to the hospital a lot earlier, but I didn't want to have that same thing where I would go to the hospital and be like, oh, you're not in labor again. And then like have them basically making fun of me because I don't know what labor is and it's my third kid.
Right,
so that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. And that's why we waited. But I mean, no one should be treated that way, especially when they're in labor, or especially when they're having a baby by someone that they should be able to trust. So I'm definitely glad we switched. And then my OB, the new OB, actually was the one on call. So he was able to like do the afterbirth, and I had to get stitches. So he was able to do all of that stuff for me after I had the baby. And that was very nice to have him there, because I felt comfortable having him. So
yeah, for sure. Well, I'm so glad that you shared your story. I mean, you had quite an experience. and I don't know. I just give props to the women who do deal with that type of sickness during pregnancy, because there's so much already going on in your body, and just life changes and seasons changing. Like, you know, even if you do have a kid and, you know, trying to take care of how you were a newborn and a toddler and being pregnant, you know, and feeling that sick, it's like, wow, like there's still just something in women that you do what you have to get done and then you collapse. You know, it's like, okay, I fed my kids. Maybe I didn't feed myself because I feel horrible, but my kids are still alive. So
yeah, it's definitely one of those things where I think after I had my last daughter, we have 3 daughters. So after we had the last baby, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be done. And obviously we're in the newborn stage, and she is colicky, so we don't sleep at all right now. But it is so much better than being pregnant and dealing with the sickness. So it's so nice. We had her on December 22nd. So we were discharged from the hospital on Christmas Eve. And it was so nice to be able to have Christmas. Even 3 days postpartum, I felt like a rock star, because I was not nauseous at all. And I could eat, and it was so nice.
Yeah, I bet. And I know that you said that you're kind of replaying that trauma, and that might take a while to get over. But just be proud of yourself. I mean, you let your body's instincts take over, and you're so blessed that you had a healthy baby and that you're healthy. But I just encourage you to give yourself grace and to just be proud of the work that you did, and to not, you know, I know that so many things could have gone wrong, but they didn't. And just accept that as a blessing, you know?
Yes. It is, especially with the cord being around her neck and being at 37 weeks.
Right.
So many things could have happened, but we're both wonderful. And even though she was a little bit smaller when she was born, she's gaining weight like crazy now, and she's chunking up already. So yeah, we have 3 healthy kids, and I am healthy now and feeling wonderful. So
good.
things really couldn't be any better, but it is very hard not to look back and think about the things that could have happened. So just need to stay in the mindset of the positivity and give myself a little bit of grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on and sharing your stories. I know that so many women can relate, especially if they're dealt with hyperemesis, because I know that that can be also really isolating because you don't want to leave the house. You don't like, people are like, well, come for a walk with me. Let's get some fresh air. And you're like, you don't understand. Like, you know, and it can be isolating. So you no longer want to go to family functions or friend functions or different things because physically you just feel like you can't. So, I know a lot of women feel alone in that, but it's nice to hear a story so that they know that they're not.
That's one of the biggest things looking back. Like if I could give one piece of advice to a woman who has hyperemesis, just make sure you have like a strong community, whether it's an online support group or friends and family. Just lean on other people and know that you're not alone, because it is really hard not to feel like you're by yourself. And then if you know someone with hyperemesis, make sure that even if you could just like send them a text message every couple of days and check in, or go to their house so they can go take a shower or throw up by themselves and not have to have their kids in the bathroom with them. So just the support is like super, super helpful. Or even maybe go to the hospital with them when they go to get an IV or something like that, pick up their medications so they don't have to leave the house all the time.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. I just want to thank Jordan and Korteney for coming on and sharing their stories and taking time out of their days to come on and share their heart, share their experiences, because that's ultimately what connects us as a group and as a Miraculous Mamas family. So thank you, ladies, so much for coming on and sharing. If you guys are not following the Miraculous Mamas Instagram, I always have information on there about the guests. I always post the episodes on there. Also, our Twitter account, which I'm slowly learning how to use correctly. I don't understand Twitter, I guess. So I try to post the episodes up there every week. So if you are on Twitter, if you just repost those and share them out, that would be super helpful. Because I'm not sure what I'm doing when it comes to Twitter. Also, again, join our Facebook group. It's an awesome place to get plugged in and just to learn about each other and do this motherhood journey together. And also check out the Miraculous Mamas website. It's elizabethjoy.co or Miraculous Mamas. There's a bunch of different mommy blogs up there, information for all sorts of different things. We have a lot of authors right now contributing, so it's awesome to get their input on there and a bunch of different people's expertise. So thank you so much for listening. Guys, we have some exciting stuff coming up as usual. We have an interview about the March of Dimes, which I'm so excited about. I saw a commercial on TV a while ago for the March of Dimes. It was talking about birth in the United States, and it is just mind-blowing, the statistics that are out there. So I'm super excited for this interview and to get them on. And then my really good friend, Tara LaRock, is coming on. She's launching an app that is going to help mamas everywhere, but she just shares her story with postpartum depression and her heart for nurturing mothers. And it's just a beautiful story. And I feel like something that anyone can relate to, whether you've been there or not. You know someone who has. So it's going to be an awesome, awesome interview. That's what's coming up the next couple of weeks. So don't forget to follow along and let me know who you guys want to hear from. Drop me a line. Let me know what you loved, who you want to hear from next. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a good week. Bye.